Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is EWE.KNOT.ALICIA here, and this is part 2 of how to knit the slip stitch heel. So at this point your heel should look like this. If you decide to place your stitch markers, then yours will have stitch markers along the side of each side. So the next thing, and if you haven't seen my part 1 video, please make sure to check out my part 1 video of how to slip stitch a heel, how to knit the slip stitch heel, so that you can be caught up with us. The next step that you're going to do is knit halfway plus 2. So I'm working on 32 stitches because in total I have 64 stitches because that's what fits my foot. So I knitted 16 plus 2. So whatever your total number is for one side, knit half of that plus 2. Now we're going to do what's considered some short rows. So once you knit it half plus 2, then you're going to slip, slip, knit. And in order to do so, you just slip, knit wise, and then knit those 2 stitches together, and then you're going to knit 1. Once you turned your work, you're going to count how many is on your right hand needle. So you have I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let me make sure. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So then I want to make sure that on my left hand needle is 11 as well. So 2, 4, 6, 10, 11. So I'm going to purl until I get to the last 3 stitches before my 11 count. So to do so, I slip 1 and then I purl until I get to 3 stitches before that 11 count, because it takes 3 stitches to decrease. So I need to purl 1 more, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to purl these 2 together, purl 2 together, and purl 1, and then I'm turning my work. So now we just set ourselves up to do these short rows. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip as if to purl, and then I'm going to knit to the last stitch before the hole. And you will be able to see where the hole is because you'll be able to feel it, the separation. So here is the last stitch. Here's the last stitch before the hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip, knit wise, and I'm a slip, slip, knit, and then I'm going to knit 1 and turn my work. Then I'm going to come over and I'm going to slip purlwise, and then I'm going to purl until I get to the last stitch before that hole on that side. And here I am at the last stitch before the hole. So I'm going to purl these 2 together, and then I'm gonna purl 1 and turn my work. And I want you to keep doing that until you've done all stitches that remain on your needles. And as you're going, you will see a little pocket, which will be the heel pocket, start to form. So continue that and we'll meet back when all stitches are worked. Okay, welcome back. And this is how yours should be looking, with this little pocket here for your heel to be inserted in. So the way that I ended on each round was I knit I slip knit, and then on the other side I purl two together. So I didn't have an extra stitches where I could slip knit and then knit one, or purl two together and purl one. So if yours ended like how mine did, that is totally fine. If it didn't end like that and you were able to knit a last stitch and purl a last stitch, that's totally fine too. It all depends on how many stitches you are working with. So right now what we're going to do is actually have these stitch markers come into play now. Now we're able to work in the round and use the other side as well. So all I'm doing right now is joining my yarn because I want the rest of my sock to be this color, because only the heel is going to be this color. And so all I did was I cut my working yarn. I gave it a few, I gave it kind of like a long tail. And then now I'm taking the new yarn and I'm wrapping it over that working yarn. And this is how I normally join my new color. So now I'm getting both strands of my new working yarn, and all we're going to do, if you're not joining yarn, if you're not changing colors, then that's perfectly fine. All you're going to do is knit across. And that first stitch when I'm joining colors is always kind of tricky, but all I got to do is just pull tight and everything will fall into place. So all I'm doing now is just knitting across. So I knitted across, and now what we're going to do is pick up these stitches. So all I'm doing is removing my stitch marker because I know that this is the stitch that I want to pick up. So I'm inserting my needle into that stitch that I'm ready to pick up, removing that stitch marker because we no longer need it, placing it to the side, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my yarn over and pull through. So essentially I'm knitting into that stitch, and I'm going to keep doing that for all the stitch markers that I have, or if you don't have any stitch markers, then for all the stitches that you set aside and was working through for your whatever rounds that you did. And yes, you may be thinking that, oh, we're going to have more stitches than what your foot called for. Once we finish picking up all these stitches, I'm going to show you 2 rounds of how you're going to decrease to get to the amount of stitches that you started with. So in my case, for example, I started with 32 on each side. So if I'm picking up stitches and I ended up with 40 stitches on one side, then I'm going to be doing a series of decrease round with a knitting round in between, so that I can, until I get back to my original stitch count, which is 32. So keep picking up stitches, and I will meet you when we get to this end so I can show you what to do so that we can kind of close a hole or prevent a hole from happening. Okay, so this is where I'm at now. I picked up the stitches along the heel portion that I've already knitted, and now I'm ready to join with the rest of the sock. So right here, if we was just to knit this next stitch, it'll create this hole that's right here. So what I like to do is pick up a few stitches along this side, or one, depending on how these stitches are laying, and all I do is I just go to where I see a stitch and I pick it up and I look and see, okay, if I was to use this stitch, would this create much of a hole or anything like that? And I don't think it will. So I go so I knit that stitch, and then I knit the next stitch, and then what I do is I look and I see if there's a hole or anything that I can fix. And to me, I feel like there's a hole right here, so I will take these out and I will try another stitch, and I just do that until I feel comfortable with how this side is going to look. All I'm doing is knitting my way across the front side. And if you're working magic loop, it'll probably be weird how to correct what stitches need to be on which needle, but you already know your original stitch count, so you can just go from there once you get all these rows worked. Once you get all these stitches on, then you can separate them. So don't worry about, like, you know, if you have too many stitches on one needle. So now I'm at the end and I'm ready to join again. So all I'm going to do is just pick up a few stitches along this row, knit it in here, and then I'm going to pick up these stitches and knit like we did on the other side. Oops. Knit like we did on the other side, and then we will be done joining the round. Okay, so now I just knitted all around my stitches. And now we're going to start our decreasing round or increase or knit round. So this is going to be a little tricky because you're not really starting in a central location that you may be used to when you're knitting around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit until I get to 2 stitches from here, and then I'm going to knit those 2 together. Then I'm going to knit around, and then when I get here, I'm going to do my slip slip knit. Then when I get here, I'm going to knit, and then when I get back here, I'm going to knit 2 together and then slip slip knit. So what we're doing is on our left hand side, we are knitting 2 together. And then when we get on our right hand side, we're slip slip knit. And so I'm going to knit 2 together, knit around, just in case this isn't clear, knit around, knit until I get to this end, and then I'm slip slip knit. Then I'm going to knit, 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 knit all the way around. And then when I get back, I'm going to repeat those steps. So I want you guys to work in that fashion, and you're going to keep doing those 2 rows of decreasing and then knitting full until you have 32 stitches and 32 stitches if you're working with 64 like I am, or whatever half stitches, whatever total stitches that you originally worked with, you want half on each side, and you're going to continue in that fashion until you get those half on each side. And that will be it. That's all it is to this heel or this leg, working this sock, and that is all that I have for you guys. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope that you guys had fun making this heel, and until my next video, bye.